The webinar is now broadcasting to all attendees.
Okay. I don't know how you got it, but there you go. I guess anybody that's a panelist has it. I had it at first and then I lost it. At any rate, those that may be able to join now, apologies. We had a little technical difficulty getting started today. We've been pretty good at avoiding technical difficulties. At any rate, I'm Jim Dieter, CEO of the Asset Leadership Network. This is ALN Thursday at 4. So welcome today to everyone joining us for our conversation with a dear old friend of mine, Bob Kaehler, who I've known for decades. That's
scary, isn't that?
Decades is a long time. I don't have the slides to show. Perhaps we'll add them later, but I do want to thank our ALN patron members, ABS Quality Evaluations, and Onuma Systems. Thank you very much. And also to mention our ALN, other male ALN member organizations, because they're the ones that make all of this possible. And thank you, all of you who stuck around to join our call today or are watching it as we go forward. So, Bob, now I can get to formally saying welcome, Bob. And where are you today?
Today, I am working from my world headquarters office in my home in Bristol, Tennessee. Our offices are not completely open yet as we navigate through this pandemic, but it's going to be happening fairly soon. But I'm in my office that's been home for the last 15 months basically. Even though I moved houses, but my office has been where I've worked for the last 15 months.
And let's see, I always associated you totally with Casa Bobo, I think you used to call it. And where was that?
Casa Bobo. That was in San Ramon, California.
Ah, yeah. You were there a long time.
25 years. 25 years in Casa Bobo. It was good. I was in California, but we moved back here. Sunflower Systems, who I've been associated with for decades, as Jim likes to say, was acquired by CGI Federal back in 2019. And as part of that, the Sunflower organization was absorbed into CGI Federal. And we have people joining the Sunflower team from all over, really all over the country, who are part of it, which, and with the pandemic, it enabled us to work a lot more remotely. And as a result of that, more places to work became available to me. My children, I raised 5 children in California, 4 of them all moved out here into the eastern side of the country within a few hours of where we landed. So we had an opportunity to make a move and be closer to family. And so we did that. We saw, I'm a California native, spent a lot of time in California, but where we are in the Appalachian Highlands here, in the area where North Carolina, Tennessee, and Virginia all come together. Beautiful area. We're going to spend a lot of time. I like driving cars, and there's some great driving roads here. I like taking my camper out and camping, and there's some of the greatest camping areas in the country around here. And I'm going to be close to my family. But not only that, I'm close to an office here and in the same time zone as many of my colleagues now. And that makes it a lot easier to work, being in the Eastern time zone and working with them and being close enough to get to meetings with my other colleagues when necessary, and everything opens up. So that's my story about how I landed here. And basically 1 foot in Tennessee and 1 foot in Virginia. As most of you know, Bristol is right on the state line.
Yeah, nice. Well, usually I'll start off with a question with an origin story. And you gave us the last part of how you got here today. But so how did you first get into asset management, and kind of where did that lead you to here?
That was a very interesting story. I started my career really in the financial services industries. I worked for big banks, Citicorp and Manufacturers Hanover, and then a couple of smaller regional organizations. I decided to look at trying to do something else and started getting into technology. Got into some technology and was with an organization that was looking at that we did a lot of consulting and database consulting and technology deployments. And we had an opportunity to partner up with a firm that was a husband and wife team that had developed this little application. And we started looking at it, kind of got into it, and that was Sunflower Assets. So that was acquired by the company I was with. We brought in Sunflower, and back in August of 2000, actually, I attended my first NPMA, National Property Management Association show, and got into the world of asset management. And so I've been involved for a little over 20 years now, and have really approach the asset management market not as a practitioner per se, but it's supporting the practitioners out there with solutions and technologies that'll help them do their jobs better, but also to capture the data that one needs to be able to start generating the metrics, which are really important and is the core of being able to do true asset management as opposed to just keeping track of where things are. So it's been an exciting road of watching the technology grow in this whole field, but it's also been a great experience for me because I've worked with people that are doing asset management in a lot of different industries, whether it's the federal government or contractors, universities, cities, as well as corporate organizations. So everybody needs to do asset management. They all seem to need to do it slightly different than everyone else. But the important thing that I try to take away from this is that it's a discipline that people are starting to recognize that it's an important part of their organization. And I believe that's because of the data that is now available.
Yeah, awesome. So, yeah, how do you approach the question of how data fits into an asset management system? You know, is it a chicken and egg approach? It is a hand-in-hand approach, or how do you see that?
That's a good question. That's a good question. How does it fit? It's interesting because you've got to do asset management before you can capture the data. So you've got to be doing it to capture the data, but you've got to capture the data in order to be able to do it effectively. So it's really a hand-in-hand answer, in my opinion, Jim. What technology has enabled, especially when we start talking mobile technology, we start talking about IoT technologies and automated interface kinds of technologies, that the data is now being captured in a tremendous volume. And so it's reflective of the operations of the organization. So doing what people have historically called asset management, which is, all right, I bought something, I'm going to take it, I need to put it in my system, I need to look at it, I need to manage it, I need to know where it is, who's got it, I need to go out and inventory it once in a while, and at the end I need to get rid of it or take it off a contract or however it applies to my particular organization. And asset management has completely evolved into something else, and data now that you capture from that is going to show the value. And that's where the data is most important, is what is the value doing for it? How does it affect our operations? What does it mean both in terms of positive value and negative value that it can inflict upon our organization? And that data then helps people do the true asset management, which is not just keeping track of my stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, and Bob and I, spent some years working together at Sunflower Systems. And I remember it was just a constant topic that we could get this great information. And it was, a good tight system for getting and, information and storing it the way you wanted it and having it available in the way you wanted it. but there'd be part of the product that was, designed for management to make decisions. And we had a difficult time convincing people that they ought to be paying attention to this. Do you see improvement in that regard and in those kind of features to the products?
Um, yes and no. The no part is that you've still got a lot of the practitioners that are doing the day-to-day tracking of the equipment and capturing the data elements that they need to for compliance purposes and for reporting purposes to project sponsors or management as necessary to essentially prove the value of what the asset management team is doing in their work. But we've got a whole other paradigm that has emerged, and that is the result of several things. First of all, asset management becoming a third important part of an organization behind people and money, just the things that they have, as you like to say, Jim. As that has come out, then we've got some international standards that have come out, and we look at the ISO 55001 directions to management. It's a management standard. It's not prescriptive as to how people should put tags on their equipment, but rather how management should look at their organization and what they need in that third segment of a successful organization for moving it forward. And then the last thing that's come about that is management's has made a leap from having people tell them what they needed to know to having the data at their fingertips through different types of reporting tools, data mining technologies, and being able to go in and get the information at levels that they previously had not been able to consume personally. And so having the information, being able to see how it affects their organization, and then seeing what the effects are on organizations that perhaps have a negative experience around their asset management. And you can think PG&E or another organization like that where there was a disaster as a result of poor asset management. And the asset management leadership now is saying, okay, I have some good information from my colleagues on what they're doing. I have good information internally. I have tools, and now I have an objective for us to look forward to in terms of putting standard in place. And therefore, management is picking up the mantle a lot more. We're seeing management do that and showing a lot of their commitment by establishing asset management teams that are really focused on the definition of asset management that one would see in ISO 55000, and that is, adding value to the organization and where it really provides the benefits to the organization.
I would assume then that when you're talking to potential clients, customers about Sunflower and solutions and services, that perhaps you're getting a little higher on the org chart with those discussions to start out?
Clearly, talking about Sunflower, specifically, it is truly an enterprise level system. And I think that's where really you need to look for an enterprise level asset management strategy, is having that asset, that system that you have that's an enterprise level system. And that's what Sunflower is doing. And so it is, Sunflower is spending more time really looking at what an overall organization could benefit from in terms of asset management, and making sure that the executive leadership in those organizations know what that can be, whether it's from, doing a better job with their real property, whether it's doing a better job with their materials management and their warehousing, whether it's their personal property management or their intellectual property management. But most importantly, bringing that all together and having a singular look across their enterprise at what they own and how it's adding value to their business is where we're trying to go. And so somebody with that visibility across the organization is certainly going to be high up in the organization chart, and certainly in the leadership capacity. And we're seeing a lot of that, coming out with a lot more enterprise systems and tying them into their enterprise systems. So the asset management is really an integral part of their overall strategy.
Yeah, so Mike asked in the chat a good question of, is there anything you can share about, how about strategies to reach senior management in organizations? Because that's, obviously what we're trying to do with the ALN as well, is to reach senior level individuals and organizations to help them understand the importance of asset management.
Yeah, that's again, I think that's what everybody is aspiring to, is to have that, that access to the top. I think that the way to get the access to become a trusted advisor, and you're a trusted advisor to leadership by bringing them solutions and information. And it's not necessarily trying to put something on there, trying to develop a contract for you, your company, and sell them something, or say, here, this is the latest technology, you deploy this is going to solve all your problems. While those things can be done after perhaps a lot of investigation for a company and looking at what solutions are there, the way to get there is to have a management strategy. You're only going to get the attention not by trying to sell technologies or a system of some sort, and whether that's just a way of doing things and procedures and policies, but you really have to build the vision of what the organization would look like with a strategic asset management plan in place, and the operations behind it to execute on that strategic asset management plan. So you're going to have a lot of different groups and a lot of different organizations, but you need to build that vision and not try to sell them on a concept per se of, we're going to do this, it's going to solve other problems, but a vision of trying to say, this is what your world would look like, and you need to, these are the things that you can do, these are the tools that you can deploy to support this. And when I say tools, not specific tools, but kind of technologies and ways of going through and bringing the solution to fruition in their organization. But building that vision and making sure that they understand a roadmap of where they want to go. And you build of where they want to go before you can tell them what they need to do to get there. So I think that's what really where the success factors are for my organization, others like my organization, is getting to the leadership and just letting them know and educating them what's possible and what that could mean for their organization. Then let them draw their own conclusions and the strategies within their organizations, and you're just ready to help them execute those as they come up.
That was an awesome answer. That's one of the best answers we've ever had.
Ah, well,
that was really good.
Sometimes you just get lucky.
Yeah.
But thank you. It's the way I truly feel.
Yeah, I think you might have a few years of experience doing those kind of things. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, let's turn to the NPMA a little bit. That's you mentioned it earlier. Then National Property Management Association. For those not familiar with it, property is pretty much equal to assets. NPMA is to a large sort of grew out of and is largely focused still on government assets. Mm-hmm. So how did you get involved in that? And, how does that fit into everything else you do?
Well, that's an interesting question. And I don't know if people know, I sit on the board of the NPMA. I'm serving as the VP of Finance, but I've also served as regional vice president and then served at chapters, regional levels in positions. I've been associated with the NPMA. I joined the organization when I first got involved in the asset management world. They were a leading organization at 4,000 members. of a lot of federal government organizations, a lot of government contractors. Like you said, national property management comes out of the fact that you say property of the U.S. government on the tags that you had to put on everything. So, and that was what it was where it originally started, and of course that's evolved and expanded from that. I've been involved, with them, and there was a lot of people that used it, and it was a very good organization to be a part of, both to learn about property management. And I'm going to use that term because it's really a term of art. They use property management to think of personal property in that segment of your asset management. So they do a lot of education. We've got a seminar coming up in a couple of weeks. It's going to be in Reno, the 26th through the 29th. We're able to hold it in person. So we are going to have an in-person meeting in Reno at the Peppermill, and been able to go with the COVID-19 and CDC guidelines and build it out. And we'll have some spatial distancing. We will, there will be masks for those that are not vaccinated, and the hotel and center where we're holding it are very well attuned to the CDC guidelines, and so it's going to be there. The other thing that we did, in this world of change, in this virtual world that we've all been living in the last 15 months, is we have figured out how to have a virtual attendance at the same conference. All of the sessions that are being held at the conference will be simulcast on a platform that users can, register for the conference and attend the conference virtually. So people that either don't have travel budget, their organization is not allowing travel right now, or personally they don't feel safe and they would prefer to wait a little bit. So we figured out how to have a virtual conference, and we're excited to see what's going to happen. We've got a fairly good turnout. It's going to be good of people in person, and an equally good turnout of virtual attendees. So who knows? We'll see if this is going to be something that'll continue into the future. But it's a great way for people to get a lot of education about tactical items, what I call tactical items of asset management, property management. There's some strategic sessions there, but it's really focused more on accomplishing, receiving inventory, doing transfers, tracking the equipment, knowing the regulations around government property, if it's part of a contract, and how you track it. And so there's a lot of really good information there, along with personal development and certifications and that the NPMA provides in the general field of property management.
I see Mike has joined us. Have we almost gotten through a half an hour already? We started late though.
Yeah, we started late, but there's some questions lined up that I want to get to, and
All right.
so people want to know how, Bob, did you meet Jim? What's your meet cute story?
Well, I don't know if Jim will remember this, but I first met Jim when he came in as a subject matter expert, and we were meeting with a couple of people from CSC, and it was at another government facility. And I forget exactly which one it was, but I think it was up in Maryland, Jim. And but you sat in on a meeting that I was sitting in on a meeting to talk about asset management. I never met you before. You just came in, and it was not long after I started. I think you were working for CSC at the time, but I don't recall. And you sat in as a subject matter expert, and then a year later, I started meeting you at NPMA conferences. So that was the first time. But then I met Jim at NPMA conferences, sat with him on a couple of panels in a couple of places. And then, as he said, we ended up working together at Sunflower for a little while. And in fact, we put together an ISO 55,000 plan for Sunflower and to take that out. So that was an exciting time and a very interesting time because there was a lot of change going on there and a lot of new things. And so we've been friends ever since.
And so then that leads to the question of you being the first member of the ALN. What made you decide to pull that trigger?
Well, at the time I was just had my own company and was doing some work for myself, and I was associated with the ALN, but I was really when the ALN started to be established and when the ISO 55000 released, it spoke to me. It was what we'd been talking about and strategically talking about where we wanted to get all of our customers, and it was our vision. It was the big, shining city on the hill. We're still looking up at it, but we're a lot closer to it now than we were. But we, I just saw the ALN, and then we needed to get it launched. And so, best thing to do is become a member and write a little check just to make sure that things can keep going. So it wasn't a big. I'm very, very honored to be the first member of it, but I think I've been surpassed. I was the first one to help get it going, but there's been many people who have contributed a lot more than I have.
Well, I wouldn't judge it like that, Bob. You've been a mainstay and a rock to the association, the Asset Leadership Network, and it's really appreciated. And in the newsletter, I say what a good guy you are. And the fact that you dealt with our technical difficulties with total aplomb, didn't faze you at all, shows what a good guy you are. And,
well, it's not my first rodeo. Maybe that's the trick.
Yeah, that helps a lot. And we appreciate the audience who dealt with the technical difficulties.
Absolutely.
If things are going well, we might have slides now. Jim?
You'd have to allow me to share my screen, Mike.
Oh, then I will do that and continue to thank assign co-host. Yes. So again, thank the attendees, and we've got some questions from them. So if Bob is willing, after we thank our patron sponsors, ABS Quality Evaluations, ABS Group, and the Onuma System, and the rest of our organizational members. We're grateful for their support. And again, we welcome the new members, Lifecycle Engineering, University Health. Some interesting things going on with them we'll be talking about in the future. And of course, Uberlytics, who's been there. They're on our board for water and wastewater asset leadership. Grant Thornton, Andrew James Advisory Group, AIM for AMS, Asset Management Lab, Mentor APM, which is connected with Uberlytics, My Property ID Registry, and Strategies Insight. So, okay, that's the official business. And then there were questions in there you kind of addressed about the evolution of asset management. Bob, you really talked about the arc. Are there any things that you're seeing now that you would not have predicted are happening in asset management? Something that's really surprised you?
That's a difficult question because actually where it's going didn't surprise. I'm surprised it took so long.
Yeah.
But it got that. I suppose based on all the hype from the first few years that I was in it, what I would say that I'm surprised at is that everybody's not just using RFID on everything right now. Because for a long time that was going to be RFID was going to be just put a tag on it, forget it. Just stick it and forget it. Let it go. The systems are going to pick it up, and it's going to know where it is. It's going to go. And there was a lot of hype around that. A lot of and it was good hype, but it was there was a lot of expectations around what it could do. RFID is a great technology. In fact, I've got an RFID scanner right here that I'm doing some work with. as we speak. And so RFID still has, a place and needs and what it can do, but it's not ubiquitous. So if there was, the one surprise I would say was that it was going to be the ubiquitous technology, and it's not.
So, yeah. So the thing that you said was the RFID was going to be read, and then the system was going to pick it up. Well, that's what ISO 55000 is. It's the system that is going to pick it up, and that's not in place yet. So therefore, RFID can't take off. And I think part of what you were saying about getting to leadership is leadership has to say, we are going to change dramatically. We are going to align with our mission, but things are going to be different, and new tools and processes have to be learned and understood and implemented. Then the RFID can be ubiquitous. But if there's no back end system to pick it up, it's not going to happen. That wasn't a question. I guess that was me.
Everybody gets a rant, that's good. That's a good rant.
Well, I think there are systems that are picking it up and people can do it. But I think that there are a lot of other factors that are involved in it that people don't realize and understand. And there's a huge human factor in all of this. We can't just have the machines doing everything, but there's, it's kind of like when you look at data mining, right? You've got all these tools and you can bring it in. There's tons of data. If you want to look at your asset data, you bring it all in. There's all kinds of data. But the most important asset that you're going to have in bringing this all in is the human that knows which questions they want answered, because that's what's going to do it. I mean, you need to understand, and it's really the subject matter experts. You got the technologists who can get all this data for you. You've got tons of data, and the RFID would put data out there. But in addition, you got the Internet of Things. You got all these things that are plugged in and can send information, and you can capture a ton of that information. You can be killed with information. How do you get the information out? And you got technology say, I can get anything out for you. It's great. We give you the information. The key, though, the most important thing, and that people forget this, is what questions do you want to ask? What information do you want? And that is the key. That's where your asset managers are going to add all the value. You get so much data. What do I want to know? And how do I need to ask the question to get that information?
Again, that's a real good response. Thank you. There's a question about your dual role with NPMA and ALN. You're on the board of both. Mm-hmm. Why is that important to you, and where do you see the two organizations complementing each other and moving the ball forward together?
Well, that's these are great questions. Thanks. I'm on both boards because people want me on the boards, I guess. But there's, I like supporting the organization. It's volunteer work, right? And I like supporting the organization. I like supporting the members that are out there. Somebody's got to do it. It's, it's all it's kind of like that pebble in the pond kind of a thing. I just need to do a little bit. If I can do a little bit, then that ripple can take off. And if more people, are associated with it and bring it up, then you can start accomplishing, great things. But the two organizations are substantially different in sort of mission and what they want to do, and they actually complement each other very well. And I know that there are things that there's a lot of collaboration that's already going on, and there's more that's being looked at in the future as we can bring it up. But I know that ALN members, attend our conferences, but they speak at our conferences, and they're on webinars that the NPMA puts together. The NPMA did have a course on ISO 55000 that was taught by Sherry Cross, who was originally on, I think, TC 251, Jim.
Yep,
and
she was.
She was on that part, and she taught a class. So some members in NPMA, a lot of NPMA members are really looking at the A55 certification from ALN. I think that there's quite a few members that have either gotten the certification or in process of doing that. And it's a different kind of certification than NPMA is. Again, you know, when I described it earlier, NPMA is a lot about how, you know, what you have to do, how you get the job done, what are the rules that you got to follow, what are the regulations that you have, and these are really key important things in asset management and doing it well. The ALN comes from a different perspective, and it's from a management perspective, and it's more strategic. And it's like, if we do all these things, what's it going to do for our organization? And then we look at what it's going to do for our organization so that we can then look back as how do we support and improve all these things that we're doing. And that's going to be inside of your personal property, maybe your NPMA people. And then you've got your fleet, and you've got a whole bunch of fleet people that are there. And then you may have some you know, specific assets that relate to your particular organization that you belong to a different organization about, or you might be, you know, along with the maintenance and reliability folks aspect of asset management, and they're all really important. And so what ALN does is it provides, you know, that framework for bringing all these really important components together and putting that management umbrella over the top of it, and then recognizing the value, and then invest organization resources appropriately to get the maximum value out of each of those segments, which are getting the maximum value out of their individual assets that they have within their control and operation.
Again, really well stated.
One of the things I always liked about Bob is he really is a big picture guy. And I think that answer was a great big picture answer. Let me ask one, Bob, is I promised to not ask any questions you didn't know the answer to, but as we said before we got on, that doesn't really eliminate anything because Bob always knows the answer. But if you had a magic wand in the asset management world and got to wave it one time, what would you wish for?
CAO. Every organization has a CAO, and it's right on Mahogany Row, right next to the CFO and the CMO and the CPO and the CEO, the Chief Asset Officer. I mean, you have a CFO, and they're there to guard, you know, your cash and your financial positions and all the things that go around that. Obviously, I don't want to oversimplify the CFO role. But you should also, you've got an equal amount of value of your organization in your assets. Why don't you have a chief asset officer out there? You've got a chief people officer. You've got as much invested in people as you do in assets. You have a chief people officer. Why don't you have a chief asset officer? Somebody that has that from a executive, you know, level position, almost a board level position to really focus on the advantages and benefits that the organization is going to derive from managing their assets with the same level of rigor and focus that they do their people or their financials.
Wow, you just are spot on today, Bob. But you are all the time, so.
Well, what do you think, Mike? Are we good to wrap it up now, or?
I think that was, you know, two great. Maybe ask Bob what's he doing at his current position, and how his involvement with NPMA and ALN helps him with his current job.
That's a good last question.
Want to repeat that, Jim, or did I just answer it?
I think he just asked you. I think.
I think your producer thought he was talking in your ear. Thanks, Mike. What am I doing now? I've been involved in a couple projects. Right now, I'm working on a project that involves scoping out and developing some business process around a new warehouse management functionality. And envisioning what we want to do around warehousing, especially as it supports, you know, the asset management function within an organization. You know, we look at production organizations. They have warehouses full of stuff, and they need to put a bill of materials together and get it on the floor and get it shipped. We've got government organizations that respond to emergencies and need things in their warehouse to be able to deliver them to either sub warehouses or out to the field to deal with an emergency or in preparation for standing things up. These are all assets. You've got organizations that may be a law enforcement organization, and they keep all kinds of weapons, ammunition, uniforms, and things like that. And they need to issue that appropriately to the individuals, in their organization as necessary, and keep track, because these are all highly sensitive things, and you want to be able to have good records around that. So one of the things we're doing is looking at modernization projects. And so we're looking at, so I'm involved in a warehouse management project to look at what we need to do using some of the new technologies that our development labs are working in right now, and how the ALN and NPMA help me with that is that there is a lot of information. There are people out there that specialize in that. And so I try to find the colleagues I know that have an expertise in that, so that they can help build, my vision of what this needs to look like with actual, subject matter expertise. And I think that that's the most important part of that is to talk to people that do it and help them derive what the important features are going to be, both now and in the future, and where the direction's going and what it needs to support. So my project before this was doing a FedRAMP authorization for a web-based asset management system. So for a hosted system being held in a cloud, putting all together the FedRAMP, meeting the FedRAMP requirements and putting all the security aspects in place to meet the FedRAMP requirements that are out there to get an authorization for government agencies to do cloud computing and use your application in the cloud. And that's another important aspect of asset management that people don't think about, is like, how do we deliver this functionality out there and keep our organizations safe in our assets, safe from hack and the dark people that are out there that we need to keep away from a lot of things, especially assets that could be contributing to our infrastructure.
Yeah, security is certainly at the forefront of everyone's mind, and new and different ways all the time.
Yeah, and we're seeing it. And we've seen a couple of attacks on the infrastructure lately those are asset management and asset management systems behind those things. So we need to really pay attention to keeping that really up to date with the latest technologies and profiles that we can to keep the bad guys away.
Well, I think I'll call it a wrap then. And Mike, thanks for coming in and asking some additional questions, and especially Bob, thank you very much.
My pleasure. It's always good seeing you.
The only thing that would be better if we had a beer and could talk for another couple hours, which we have done in the past.
We're not that far away from it, Jim. Just hang on, get your second shot, and we're good to go.
I'm there. I'm ready. Okay.
All right.
That's good. Okay. Thanks everybody for joining us today. Again, apologies for a little technology glitch at the beginning. We didn't have Nick today, so it was Mike and I. So
it's amazing. It's amazing. Give yourselves a big round of applause for actually making it happen and getting through to the end. So.
Thanks, Bob. Love your attitude.
That's good.
Thanks, everybody.
Good. Have a great day, everyone. Thanks.